So welcome back to Mr. Glover's Kitchen. It is gluten-free pizza demo this time, okay? Now, first things first, I have preheated my oven to 220, so higher than we've worked with before. We've done 180, we've done 200, now we're doing 220. So that is preheating and set. Now, you might have noticed in the little pan that I've already seemed to have prepared something here. This is normal dough, used with normal flour, normal plain flour, okay? Because I want to show you the difference when I need gluten-free flour with normal flour. So there's a line in my kitchen here. This is for normal flour, this is for gluten-free. Now, what I've done is I've already, in the mixture, put the yeast, salt, and olive oil, and I've combined it with the flour. Now, what you should see is you should see that some little clumps have fallen on here, but it still just looks like flour, but there is the yeast, salt, and oil already in. Now what I need to do is I need to get my water, and I'm gonna add this a little bit at a time to my mixture. Okay, now what you're looking for is you're looking for a very wet dough. Okay, a very wet dough. Now, gluten-free flour, you'll notice, is very different to normal flour. Okay, it's very dry, so it does absorb water quite quickly. Now, look, there's no way near enough water in there. You can see how that's all going crumbly. What I need for it to all stick together, and it might be that I have to add a little bit more water. You just need to judge it and see. Okay, so I'm going to mix this round to form a nice dough. So after mixing it, and I need to add a little bit more flour, I did that just pinch at a time, we've got quite a sticky dough. Now, what you can see, it doesn't really leave your fingers that easily. Now what I've done is I actually, when I picked it up, put a little bit of flour on my hands, and that meant I could create this dough here. Okay, so there it is, and I place it onto a gluten-free floured surface. Now, as I said to you, what I always like to do is I always like to prepare my washing up liquid bowl before I start, so that I can wash my hands regularly, but then also it means that I can put the equipment in the washing up bowl and start to let it soak. Now, so this is what the dough should look like, okay? And now I'm going to start the kneading process, okay? So with the kneading process, what I do is I actually use the base of my hand here, and I press like so. Now, if a bit comes off, that's not a problem. We can just put that back. But then what I need to do is fold it over like this and turn and press again. Fold it over and press. Now, if it's sticking like it is here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spread a little bit more flour over the surface, knead, fold over, and go again. So using the base of my hand, knead just to push, fold it over, get some more flour in there, and go again. Okay, fold over, push, fold over, and keep doing this. And you need to do this for about 5 minutes. Okay, so set yourself a timer, just like you do when you're doing the quizzes that I set you, of about 5 minutes. Now, from the video, it might look like I'm just going bang, like that. That's not kneading, it's a push. You should feel and see the dough move, okay? And use it with both hands. And what this is doing is this is gonna help create that nice fluffy texture to your bread. It's also activating the flour and activating the yeast. So what's happening now is actually, as I'm kneading it, you'll notice it absorbed a lot of the flour and taking a lot of the flour on the surface. Now you might come back to your flour sauce and put some more on. But if you look at the dough here, it's very crumbly. Okay, that is normal. That is perfectly normal for the dough to do that, okay? For it to be quite crumbly. Now I'm gonna roll this out later, okay? But don't worry that it feels quite crumbly. It's supposed to do that. You'll notice the difference when I come on to the normal bread here. Now, you won't make normal bread until year 9, but you can already see how elastic and stretchy this is. Okay? Now, the kneading also adds strength to it. So, look at the difference. Look at how stretchy and spongy it is. It moves with me, almost. You really have to work quite hard, and it's not breaking. It's all staying as one. This is completely the opposite of crumbling. Now, if any of you wanted to do the same as me and to do normal bread as well as gluten-free, the recipe is exactly the same. You just use normal flour instead of gluten-free flour. The quantity of everything else, the method, it's all exactly the same. It's just the type of flour. Need a little bit more. And again, it's just that pushing. And look, it's still sticky. The dough is still sticky and it's moving with me. I can actually be a lot rougher with this dough. And I'm really pushing it down, really using my weight, really pushing into this. And you can see it's so much more stretchy. So much more stretchy than the other dough. The other dough is much harder. Now, that's the reason why we're using the topping of passata. Passata is a much wetter tomato sauce than tomato puree. If you use tomato puree on your gluten-free pizza, you'll find that it is very hard, okay? It's not very moist. So the passata and the extra moisture in it, the extra water in it, is all designed so that it can counter the dryness of the gluten-free flour. So that's something really important to think about. If you're making anything gluten-free, you need to use quite wet toppings, okay, because you have to counteract how dry the flour is. Nearly ready. And like I say, what you should have is you should have a nice stretchy dough. So you can see that it's stretching, it's got those elastic properties, and we're nearly ready to start making our pizza. So what you can see is I'm now rolling out the gluten-free flour, and you can already notice a big difference from how stretchy the other one was to actually how crumbly and dry this one is. You can see bits cracking, etc. Okay, it is really difficult to work with. You can see this is already split on here, so actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my knife and cut that there. Now, the original recipe says for you to make smaller versions, so cut this into smaller pieces, and I can really see why, because doing it as one big one means that when you lift it off and go and put it on the tray, as you can see, it crumbles. Now you can, if you want, trim the edges, okay, make it a little bit neater if you wish. The difficult thing that you're going to have is actually combining the dough again, okay? Because it is so crumbly, it is often very difficult to keep it all together. Now, if you've got the water consistency right, it should just about go back into a ball again. But then what you can now start to do is start to prepare your pizza. So I have my gluten-free one, which is the square here, and my non-gluten-free one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour the passata on and just use the back of a spoon just to spread it out. So you can already notice the difference in the sauces. There is tomato puree, so concentrated tomato on this one. It's much thicker, whereas there's passata, a much thinner, a much watery sauce on here. Now I'm being quite generous with this, okay, because I want to have a really nice tasting pizza. So get your cheese. Now remember, not too much. Cheese is dairy, and if you remember, dairy is one of the smaller food groups that we should have behind carbohydrates, fruit and vegetables, and protein. So put that on there. Now it's time to put them in the oven. I'm going to put them in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes, and we'll see what they look like when they come out. So they've come out of the oven now. They took about 10 minutes. I did give them the full 12, but they were pretty much done after 10 minutes. Now what you can see is, you can see already, this is a very flexible dough, still, just like you'd imagine a pizza to be. It is quite hot, so be careful. This one, much more rigid, but thankfully the passata has done its job. It's soaked down into it, okay, so it's not quite as firm as it would be. Now, challenge yourself, make both, and see how you compare the tastes of gluten-free pizza with normal pizza. Okay, but they both look delicious, but the proof is in the pudding. So we'll test these now and see how they taste. Thank you ever so much for taking part in this week's Food Practical. If you can do it, please do. Don't forget to send me the pictures of what you do. I post them all on Twitter. So if you don't follow me at Mr. AJ Glover, make sure that you do. Good luck with all of this. If you have any questions about it, please email me. And like I say, if you want to mix up the ingredients, feel free to do so. You can have pepperoni, already cooked chicken, etc. It's the same as the pizza pinwheels. Don't put any raw meat on there. It must already be cooked because it's not in the oven long enough to cook raw meat. Okay? So, thank you very much for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Good luck with your gluten-free pizza and have a champion day.